Today I will show you how to identify M1 web slings. I'll show you a few different variations. There's 5 in total. I have a good overview here that will be able to demonstrate the differences in the 5 variations, although I don't have all 5. I will also show you how to identify foreign-made slings from what could be a World War II sling, or what is a World War II sling, but oftentimes you'll see guys trying to sell foreign-made slings and describing them as World War II. And I will show you all the variations in the parts here. So first, I have a Type 2 World War II sling. And you can notice it's a Type 2 because the buckle back here has these ridges on it. This is a Type 3 sling, and you can see it has that, just the bar, but the ridges, and then you also look for the flat buckle on the back. This one has a ridge on the back. So this is a Type 2. And the reason it's a Type 2 is that it's an olive drab rather than khaki. The Type 1 was identical to this one, but it was in khaki color. These ends you'll often see are sometimes blued. This one was blued. And you'll also see parkerized. I'm not sure what the difference in change was, but you can look all over it for markings. Oftentimes you'll find the markings down here. You can see on this one, the markings will be oftentimes down here on the strap. Look over the entire sling and make sure you don't see an MRT on this if you don't see any markings. If you do see an MRT, that means maybe somebody put a World War II buckle on a post-war sling. And also one thing to note is the ends are blued or parkerized on the World War II, and on the post-war they're brass. And they'll be black and brass like that. All World War II will have parkerized or blued end caps. And so I described the first variation, identical to this, but in khaki. And that was made in the first half of 1943. The second variation that I have here was made from 43 to 45, and that is in olive drab, and it's identical to the khaki version. The third variation that I have right here, this is also a World War II sling. And the reason I know it's a World War II sling, for one, is it's marked, but they started making this in the start of 1945, and you can notice it doesn't have the claws on the buckle like that one has. Just has a ridge, that was so it didn't cut into the strap. You also can notice that the buckle was remade and it has the ridge on the back. Other than that, it'll still use parkerized, possibly blued end caps. You can see if you go down to here, I have a mark. That mark says SM Company 1945. So this was right here was a late World War II sling. Then I have the and that was the third variation that I just showed you right there. The fourth variation is a wider buckle right here, and it uses blackened brass end caps and hardware. You can also see down here, that's a black and brass buckle there, rather than that one's parkerized. And I'll go over the numbers. So khaki, not this one, but the khaki version of this, early 43. This version 43 to 45. This version that I showed you that has that, it could be all the way up until about 1950. So if it's not dated, you can't prove that it's a World War II sling, although it would be correct even if it wasn't dated on a World War II rifle, because they really all were made the same. The fourth variation, you'll notice this buckle was redesigned. That was to clamp the strap better to prevent slippage. It still has the ridge on the back, and it has the blackened hardware. The 50s to 60s versions of this were a little more greenish in tint generally, and then the they made this from the 1950s to the 1970s, and those were a little less green. The fifth variation is identical to this, although the strap is made out of nylon versus canvas, and also the hardware has a green film on it. They changed how the hardware is, although it'll be identical to this. The end caps are often painted black. They're not exposed brass like this. And that one was made post 1970, so you're looking at Vietnam era sling, well, into Vietnam and through slings, probably no use really on the M1, maybe in National Guard use or something. And now this last sling I have right here, this is a US made web sling. I got this from the CMP. I have an unwrapping video. You'll notice the MRT. That MRT denotes that it's certainly post-World War II here. That's mold-resistant treatment, and then they'll often have a date. I can't read the date on this one. But what makes this interesting is the CMP had these wrapped up. I don't believe, well, I know for a fact now that those slings weren't wrapped up by the U.S. government. They were wrapped up by another country. And you can tell, if you look at this sling, oftentimes people try to pass on a Danish buckle as a World War II sling. And so you see these slings, they both are flat on the back. This one is painted. That's a big sign. And you'll also notice it's not as wide. If you look, though, they really look, to the untrained eye that didn't know, they really look similar. You notice it doesn't have the wings. That's the biggest factor that you can see just on a glance, that if it doesn't have the wings, that's a foreign-made Danish buckle. And it's interesting because the Danish, when they wrapped those slings up in the waterproofing coating, they must have slipped this buckle onto a U.S.-made sling, because this is a U.S.-made sling. But you'll see people that put these on web slings and try to sell them as World War II, because these Danish slings are pretty easy to find. And so that should help you find and make sure you're buying correct World War II slings if you're paying a premium. All of these slings are serviceable, although, like I said, these early straps like this will cut into the sling material. You can see on the end of this World War II sling, it's kind of cut in right there. That's where it sat for a long time. So for a rifle you're going to use the sling a lot for, this is eventually going to destroy your web sling. But I hope that showed you the 5 variations well. Hope I described them well, and I hope that prevented you from getting cheated by one of these Danish slings. I mean, these are serviceable slings. They'll still cut into the strap and stuff, but they're serviceable slings. And cutting into the strap on something like this, since it's post-war, or even if it was a Danish made, isn't as big a deal. But don't pay a premium for something like this, because they're pretty common. Thanks. Have a good day.